The movie begins with Emma. She takes a pregnancy test and is shocked to discover that she's pregnant, but she decides to keep it a secret from her boyfriend Chris until after their trip because he doesn't want kids right now. Then we see Chris coming back home. Before entering the house, his friend calls him and tells him that he won't be able to cover his shift at work. Chris gets angry and says, "Are you kidding me? We had an agreement and you know I'm traveling with Emma for several days." But his friend can barely hear him because some workers in a nearby house are making a lot of noise. After that, Chris picks up Emma and they hit the road. Joining them on this trip are two of their friends, Randy and Piers. When they arrive, Chris and Piers start chopping wood, while Emma washes her face in the bathroom. Meanwhile, their friend Randy pulls out a bag full of medicine, takes one bottle, quickly closes the bag, and acts as if he's afraid someone might see him. Later that night, they all go outside to hang out near the house, laughing and playing around. After a while, Chris notices something standing in the distance, and a strange green light suddenly appears from it. When he tells the others, no one really pays attention because when they look, all they can see is a green light in the sky. Suddenly, the car alarm starts going off by itself. Then they notice Randy lying on the fence, looking dizzy. He tells them he's not feeling well and needs to go inside and sleep. Emma follows him because the weather is getting colder, leaving Chris alone with Piers. Then Chris sees that mysterious green light again and starts feeling confused. After Chris finishes his drink, he goes inside to Emma while drunk and tells her that he's thinking they should try again and that he finally feels ready now. They were talking about having kids. Emma replies, "You're only saying that because you're drunk. Tomorrow when you wake up and remember this, you'll regret it." And Emma still hasn't told him that she's pregnant yet. Anyway, Emma gets upset with him and says, "Forget about it for now. You're the one who said you're not ready." A little later, Chris gets up to drink a glass of water. At that moment, Randy and Piers are sitting together playing. As soon as Chris drinks the water, he sees the same strange light outside again, and this time the light shines directly into his face. At that point, he decides to go outside and check who's messing with them. He starts shouting loudly, "Go mess around somewhere else before I call the police." Even though they are actually staying in a remote cabin up in the mountains, the light keeps getting stronger, and as Chris moves closer, it suddenly blinds him. At the same time, Emma comes out to check why he is taking so long. She asks the others, but they tell her they haven't seen anything. She steps outside and notices Chris's flashlight, so she follows it. The moment she sees Chris, that strange light suddenly flashes into her eyes as well. When she reaches the place where he was standing, he has completely vanished without a trace. Terrified, she runs back into the house, and they immediately call the police. A police officer arrives, completely confused by Emma's story, and says, "What green and red light are you talking about?" But Emma sticks to her story and tells him she's absolutely sure about what she saw. Then she asks, "Could this be aliens? I heard strange things have been happening lately, and people are starting to suspect aliens." The officer tells her they will search the area, and if they find anything new, they'll call them. The three of them stay together, frightened and in shock. The next morning, Emma wakes up in a panic and finds her friends still asleep. She wakes them up and tries calling Chris, but his phone is turned off. She takes her friends and heads to the police station to ask the officer and his chief if there is any update. The police chief responds with a mocking laugh and says, "No news at all. Honestly, not even a little kid would believe this story you're telling us. What lights? What aliens?" Emma gets angry and insists that everything she said is true. The officer tells her, "Try to remember something else." She replies, "I already told you everything I saw." Then the police chief steps in and says, "Look, the guy has only been missing for 8 hours. Once 24 hours pass, then we'll look into your little movie story." Frustrated, she says, "So you'll only move when he's already dead," and storms out. After they leave, the police chief turns to the officer and says, "There's definitely something strange about this." He then tells him to stop by their place tomorrow, just in case something unusual shows up. Meanwhile, on the other side, something completely unexpected happens. Randy is sitting alone when suddenly a completely naked man walks in. Randy is terrified and immediately asks, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The man replies, "It's me, Chris, Randy. I was abducted last night and suddenly I woke up lying on the ground completely naked like this." A moment later, Emma and Piers arrive and see him. When he starts calling them by their names, they are shocked, but they still can't believe that this is really Chris. "Who are you, man? How do you even know us?" He looks at Emma and says, "Why are you looking at me like that? Don't you recognize me?" Emma answers, "Have you taken something, Chris? No way. Your face, your body, your height, nothing about you looks like Chris." The man gets angry and says, "This is cruel. How can you do this to me?" Then he looks at himself in the mirror, freezes in shock, and starts saying, "Who is this guy? What happened to me?" When they see him panicking and losing control, Emma knocks him out. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied to a chair. Emma refuses to call the police and tells the others, "The police won't help us anyway, especially after tying this guy up and beating him. They'll just turn this against us and arrest us instead. She goes downstairs to question him and says, "Look, I don't know who you are, but if you know anything about Chris, tell me. He's an Asian guy, very calm and harmless." He replies, "I am Chris. Why won't you believe me? I know every one of you, and I know this is Randy's uncle's house. Last night I followed that thing with the green light, and after that I remember nothing. When I woke up, I was naked, and there was another naked guy next to me. The person whose body I'm in right now is that guy. There was nothing there except that green light." Emma is clearly shaken by what he says, but she still can't convince herself that this strange man is really her boyfriend. Suddenly, they hear noise outside, and their friend Patrick walks in. They tell him everything that happened, and the moment the tied-up man sees him, he shouts, "Patrick, help me!" Everyone is shocked that he knows Patrick's name, but they still don't fully trust him. Emma tells Patrick to stay and watch him while the others go out to search for Chris. Meanwhile, Piers is looking for some painkillers and finds Randy's bottle of pills in his room. Without knowing what it is, he swallows one. As they drive around, Piers starts acting very strangely because the pill begins to kick in. They search every corner of the town but find nothing. Emma decides to head back to the house to talk to the strange man again, while Randy and Piers continue searching. At that point, Piers suddenly runs off by himself, throwing off his clothes as he goes. When Emma gets back, she finds Patrick outside and immediately starts arguing with him about why he left the man alone. A moment later, someone knocks on the door. Emma asks, "Who is it?" A man outside asks about Randy. Just as she's about to say he's not there, another man appears behind him holding a gun. They force them to open the door, rush inside, and start searching the house until they find the bag they were looking for. Chris keeps talking to Emma, trying to convince her that he truly loves her. Then suddenly Randy comes in and asks, "What are you all doing here?" Emma gets furious and yells, "Come untie us right now, or your day is going to end very badly." Randy immediately rushes over and frees them. Emma sits down with Chris in his new body and says, "I'm completely lost right now. I don't know what to do." Chris replies, "Ask me anything, something only the two of us would know." She starts asking him very specific personal questions, and strangely, he answers every single one perfectly without making a mistake. At that point, she decides to untie his hand, although she is still hesitant. When they step outside, Randy immediately shouts at her, "Are you crazy? How could you trust him like that?" She answers, "I swear it really is Chris. I'm sure now because he answered personal things that only we know." Chris tells them, "Trust me, Randy. I'm in a terrible situation, and I've done everything I can to prove who I am. We need to get out of here now. I'm afraid next time I might turn into some kind of beast and eat you all alive." A moment later, there's a knock at the door. It's the police officer, and he brings Piers with him. He says, "You people are seriously exhausting. We found this guy running naked through the street like a complete madman." Emma asks the officer, "Any news about Chris?" He replies, "No, we're still searching," and then leaves. Emma takes Piers inside and asks him, "What kind of mess did you get yourself into?" He says, "I don't know. I got this strange feeling like I was turning into an alien. Suddenly I felt so hot that I took off all my clothes, and after that, I can't remember anything." Emma quickly figures it out and says, "You definitely took one of those pills from Randy's room." When Piers realizes Randy was the reason behind it, and that he had taken hallucination pills, he gets furious, especially after noticing that even random men were coming onto him in the street. He angrily tells Randy, "You're not my friend, and I don't even know you anymore." Later, Emma tells them she's exhausted and wants to rest, leaving Chris and Randy drinking together. The next day, Chris is clearly overwhelmed by everything that's happening. Emma walks over and hugs him, but sadly it feels more like she's hugging a stranger than her boyfriend. When things almost become intimate, she suddenly pulls away and says, "I don't feel right. It feels like I'm doing something wrong," because deep down, she knows this isn't Chris's real body. Chris gets upset and walks out. At that moment, the police officer knocks on the door again. Chris asks him, "Is there any news?" The officer says no, then asks, "And who are you?" Chris answers, "I'm Chris." The officer immediately realizes something strange is going on and asks to come inside and search the house. And this is where disaster strikes. The new Chris suddenly hits the officer on the head, knocks him unconscious, and hides him inside a closet. Inside the house, Randy is apologizing to Piers because he never expected him to take those pills. Emma sees Chris hiding the officer, panics, and secretly grabs her phone to call the police while trembling so he won't hear her. Then she tries to escape. As she's leaving, Chris suddenly appears right in front of her and says, "Where are you going?" She freezes and doesn't know what to say. When he tells her they need to run away together, she tries to escape, but he starts chasing her while shouting, "I'm Chris, your boyfriend, please believe me." Randy rushes in and starts fighting him. But Chris, in this new body, is surprisingly small yet incredibly strong, and he beats Randy badly. Then Piers joins the fight and tries to choke him, but Chris elbows him hard in the eye. Emma manages to escape and runs into Patrick, who has just returned. At that exact moment, the men who were looking for Randy arrive and order Emma not to move. Then Chris bursts out, shoots one of them in the chest, and even takes Patrick down as well. The remaining guy also gets hit and goes down. After that, he goes to Emma and threatens her to come with him. But the real shock comes when he finally admits that he is not Chris. At the same time, we see the real Chris tied up inside an abandoned house screaming, "Help me, somebody help!" He throws himself to the floor with the chair, grabs a sharp piece of broken glass, and starts cutting through the ropes until he finally frees himself. He runs out of the place and, on the way, runs into the police chief. Now pay close attention so you understand what really happened. When Chris went outside to investigate that green light, this creature knocked him out with a blow to the head. When Chris woke up, he found himself tied up, while this guy was torturing him and threatening that if he didn't reveal every detail about his relationship with Emma, he would kill her. So poor Chris, under pressure, was forced to tell him all their secrets and even details about his friends. That means this imposter had been watching them and terrifying them for a long time. When the police chief contacts the officer and explains everything, Chris immediately realizes that this fraud has taken Emma and run away with her. He quickly tells the chief, "Turn the car around and step on it now." Meanwhile, the fake Chris is telling Emma that he loves her and that he has been watching them for a long time. He tells her he can give her everything the real Chris never did, and that he truly loves her. Because of this twisted obsession, he even came up with the whole alien idea just to confuse her and make her believe that Chris had simply ended up in another body. He takes her to the abandoned house and says, "Come, I'll show you where Chris is." But he is shocked when he discovers that Chris has already escaped. He ties Emma up and says, "I'll be right back." But just before leaving, Emma signals that she wants to say something. The moment he leans closer, she suddenly bites him hard. He quickly wraps the wound with tape and storms out to search for the escaped Chris. At that moment, the police officer arrives with Chris, and they hear noise coming from the forest. The officer tells Chris, "Go back right now and check on Emma." And Chris immediately runs toward her. But sadly, the officer is tricked by that monster. Out of nowhere, the creature ambushes him and knocks him down. Right after that, he heads straight for Chris before he can escape with Emma, threatening him to drop the knife in his hand. Chris keeps begging and pleading with him to let them go, but the man is completely obsessed with Emma. Just then, Emma suddenly kicks him, knocking the weapon out of his hand. Chris charges at him and starts punching him repeatedly, but sadly he is no match for the other man's strength. Just as the criminal is about to finish Chris off, a gunshot suddenly drops him to the ground. The police chief arrives at the very last second and saves the situation. Emma quickly rushes over to make sure Chris is okay, then grabs the gun to make sure the nightmare finally ends. She walks straight toward the criminal and delivers the final blow that puts an end to him once and for all. After that, she helps Chris and the officer into the car and speeds them to the hospital to save their lives. On the way, Emma finally tells Chris that she's pregnant, and with that, we've reached the end of the movie. As always, don't forget to support the video with a like and a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a new movie recap.